Welcome to Bearcast. In today's episode, we are thrilled to introduce our first guest, Steve Canning, who is an instructor and instructional designer at SUNY Potsdam. Since 2011, Steve has been shaping the minds of future professionals through his specialized expertise in instructional design and education technology, with a primary goal of equipping students with essential skills for teaching in business realms. He fosters an environment where learning is not just passive absorption, but an active hands-on experience. Currently serving as an instructional designer at SUNY Potsdam's Center for Creative Instruction, he collaborates closely with the faculty to develop online courses and programs adhering to the rigorous standards of the SUNY Open Course Quality Review. And then his role extends beyond mere technical support, where he encompasses the holistic integration of pedagogy and technology to enhance learning experiences for Potsdam students. But he isn't confined solely to the academic sphere. With a lifelong passion for gaming and learning, they ventured into diverse arenas, including designing and managing contests for the National Education Foundation using Minecraft. Drawing from their background as a former professional gamer, Steve seamlessly intertwines gaming culture with educational pursuits and promoting innovative approaches to learning. And then through their multifaceted roles, Steve seeks to bridge the gap between technology and pedagogy, catalyzing the evolution of both campus and society. So join us as we delve into their journey, insights, and vision for the future at the intersection of education, technology, and online learning. And hello, Steve. Thank you for
Hello.
joining. Would you mind introducing yourself to the audience?
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, I'm Steve Canning. I'm an instructional designer here at SUNY Potsdam and an adjunct as well. I've been working in this Potsdam space in higher ed since 2010 or so. And yeah, I suppose in this I should add, since we're talking esports a little bit, at one point I used to compete in the esports circles also in kind of 2010. But a little bit recently in 2016, but yeah, we'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, very cool. And you also went to school at SUNY Potsdam?
I did. I've been here since 2005. Technically, I grew up in upstate New York in a town called Saranac, over near Plattsburgh, the smaller Saranac, and yeah, I liked this place. And I did well in school, I guess. I made good connections, and that's kind of why I'm still here. Is just those good connections and keep giving me opportunity, and I just kind of just kept going with it. Yeah.
Awesome. And what courses are you teaching right now?
Wow, that shifts a lot. As the program's changing, everything's changing all the time. So we change what we offer depending what's kind of in demand. And so now I'm more on the web design presentations course um, side of things, where the front end stuff. There was a little while I was pretty heavy into the instructional design courses that Karen Caldwell took over. Prior to that, I did a lot of the same web design things. There was an authoring and scripting course in there, so some light programming. Back then it was like with Flash and ActionScript and things. Some networking courses, the technology and education course. I still teach that one once or twice a year. And yes, so that's basically where I lay is in that program is the front end design side of things with a heavy hand of or heavy dose of instructional design
Nice.
built into it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think last semester you gave everyone in the course a little bit of a jump scare, the HTML assignment. I don't think they were
Yeah,
expecting that, but it was good. I've
yeah,
actually used that quite a bit.
cool.
So next I want to dive into research. Um, so in 2017, you were able to do some research on the culture of deep learning in esports, an insider's perspective. So what was your motivation in doing this research?
It was just convenient in a way. Like Tony Betrus came to me with the opportunity. We have a colleague. His name's Jason Engerman out of Penn State. He was doing research and he has connections with big trade magazines. One of them being the I think it was EdTech magazine that was published in. And yeah, so actually the opportunity came from Jason to Tony to me. They were looking for something like that, exactly a kind of first person or insiders take on what's happening in esports and how that aligns with teaching and learning. And there wasn't too much research. It was more, like I said, a deep dive into my own mind and experience, and talking a lot with Tony and others about what I went through with a particular game. And yeah, and I think that piece is meant to be something people could reference if they're looking for like a first person's perspective articulated in a somewhat academic way, which there isn't too much of that out there. There is probably now, but back then there wasn't much of it. So yeah, that's kind of the motivation. Just seemed like it was a good time for it, and stars aligned, and so I dished it out.
Awesome. And was there like an event where you were doing the research or the deep dive, or what did that look like?
No, there wasn't like a particular event. It was basically based around my experiences with Tribes Ascend was the game, and connecting that to teaching and learning. And again, it wasn't I don't think I even formally presented it like itself, but it was used constantly in stuff. Tony and I were presenting. It was in his TED talk and a bunch of other things, conferences we went to, we were able to reference it. So that's more of what it was kind of like a piece we could reference in other things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what was it like? Did you have to sit down and write it, or
Yeah.
was that Cody's job?
Yep. I sit down and wrote it. Yep. And then Tony would do a pass, a light edit, and then I'd get back to the drawing board. And we had many iterations, and it was pretty frustrating to write and kind of embarrassing, to be honest, to be vulnerable in that way. You're not sure who's going to read it. Esports is kind of nerdy, you know. That's part of why we wrote it, is kind of flip that script or start changing that narrative, and that's written into the thing itself. Yeah, so there was definitely times where like, oh my god, I'm such a loser typing this stuff up, and I just stop or delete and start over. But yeah, after many iterations, many eyes on it, we got through it.
Yeah. How long do you think how long was the process?
Yeah, half a year, maybe six
Oh,
months.
wow. All right. Yeah, you
You know,
said it was,
stuff happened in between, and we'd work on it for a while, put it down, go
yeah,
do stuff, come back to it. It just had to be done by a certain time, and we were well within that deadline, and yeah.
awesome. Yeah, so you said it was pretty frustrating. So what was it like when it was
Mm.
finally published?
It was kind of like writing almost like a nerdy journal entry where you're like forming all your thoughts in one place on this kind of adventure or journey that you had, while reflecting again on this idea of teaching and learning. And um, so I don't know how I felt like I had some baseline or established some concrete place for those thoughts, I guess, which could be perceived as a relief. It could be rewarding. All those things kind of happened. Um, and yeah, I'm proud of it, I suppose. I read it a few weeks ago for the heck of it. I think I dropped in on one of your classes, so I had to remember. And my writing was okay, but man, I've come a long way since then. I can say that as well. But, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Let's dive into esports and video games next.
Yep.
So, what initially drew you into the world of professional gaming?
So yeah, like I said, I was in Saranac, which is a small town, pretty far away from things, and I competed at sports like hockey, soccer, baseball, in high school and whatnot. And then I'd come home to pretty much nothing to do, being out there, in middle nowhere. So whatever reason, my street got high-speed internet pretty much before everyone else. And as a competitive person who likes video games, it was kind of only natural that next thing I knew, I was finding tournaments to play in online. I had no aspiration to be professional. I just like to um, see what I could do, challenge myself with the game and against other players around the world. I've always found that concept fascinating and still do, and that's where it started. I was really young. I was like 10 years old or something in a IRC. It's called. It is a chat client finding Counter-Strike scrims and teams, and um, that's Counter-Strike 1.6 back then. And still didn't really have the aspiration to be professional. I don't think anyone did back then. They didn't know it would blow up like it did. And that the professional thing just kind of fell into place with Tribes, and Tribes was an early adopter of esports, I guess, and it kind of had a rough go with it. Didn't get the attention it deserved really, but yeah, that's where I found a team and some sponsors and stuff like that to formally be called professional. Although it was definitely like a full-time job. I wasn't paid like it was a full-time job, of course, but yeah. So that was a long-winded answer, but hopefully there's something in there.
Yeah. So what games, did you play as a professional gamer?
Oh, again, professional, using it kind of loosely. I guess Overwatch, you could say semi-professional is what I would say, because they had the whole Overwatch League franchise thing. I was this close probably to getting in, but I was already 30 years old at the time, so I knew my time was kind of done. I was more looking to get in on like a coaching or manager angle, something like that. I was single at the time, thought it would have been cool to live out in LA near Blizzard and all that. So basically, I was trying to get into the gaming development industry through competing. But at that point, so that's Overwatch. That's late game for me. At 2016, I don't know when I stopped playing. Not that long after 2016, really. But and then prior to that was a whole slew of like what we call dead games that never really blew up, but did have very active competitive scenes, and where I did meet a lot of pros that went on to play Overwatch and things. This game called Dirty Bomb was one of them. This game called Firefall just kind of like popped up, had really competitive scenes for a little while, and then died. Um, and then before that, the main game, Tribes Ascend again. So, and then before that, you could say Counter-Strike when I was a youngster, the old version of Counter-Strike.
Yeah. Are there any games you wouldn't consider yourself like a professional in, but they're just for pleasure that you still play or played then that you just recommend to anyone?
Well, no, I would not recommend games like that, to be honest. I think I would say video games are, there's so much, it's so saturated, and it's about doing what you like, and every option is out there these days. So play what you like. I'm big into like the single player kind of simulation games right now, very relaxing vibe, put on some music and even watch a YouTube thing as I'm playing a game on the side, the multitasking. That's kind of what I do these days. um Dwarf Fortress, that's my favorite right now.
Yeah. So has the landscape of esports and professional gaming changed since you started?
Yeah, I saw that question on your handout, if you will, and definitely like back in the Tribes days, there were no ladder systems really. Ladder systems weren't a thing, and in my early Counter-Strike days too, but ladder systems weren't a thing, and now it's everything, right? Every game has to have some leaderboard, ladder system, um, and that's definitely changed the landscape. It can sometimes hurt or sometimes help people get their way into the esports world. It can also be a very toxic environment
Mhm.
as a tradition, but I think the leaderboard thing made it even more toxic. Um, and I could speak at length about like franchising and how tournaments are organized, and some of that has evolved a lot. Some of it's kind of stayed the same. Of course, the technology supporting the broadcasting and capturing of video games is incredible, and that's definitely changed for viewership purpose. Just like what you can actually see a player doing versus what it like used to be. It's very accessible. So I guess that would be another change. Um, I think that's probably the two main things. Over is just the accessibility of it to everyone. It used to be a very nichey kind of thing. It still kind of is, but again, with leaderboards and just the prevalence of it, it's easier to get into now. And yeah, on the
Awesome.
leaderboards. Yeah.
So, last question on esports. I mean, what is one of your favorite memories as a professional gamer or just as a gamer in general?
Yeah, it's definitely not an individual moment. Maybe there's some in there, but it's just too much to speak to all of it. But I would say like it's like they say journey before destination or something like that. I heard somewhere. So basically, it's the journey of it of competing at a game, the social element that's involved with that. If you're competing at a team sport, esport, it's literally the exact same sensation as playing with a baseball team and being competitive and going far with it. You form those bonds with people. You challenge yourself. You see yourself improving, and that's very satisfying. And so this all of that stuff kind of combined is my like favorite memory, or and even what I'd like to be a part of still, almost like as a beer league kind of thing. And I'm basically a beer league esports player now, and um, that's still pretty darn good, I would say. But I can't play 12 hours a day every day like these kids are able to do. So um, yeah, I think that's the answer to that
Awesome.
one.
I could say that my favorite memory as a gamer is the midnight release of NHL 2017 here at the Potsdam Walmart, and I was the only one there. And that's when I realized how niche NHL was.
Yeah,
Um,
that is a niche one. I remember playing NHL '98 when I was a kid. That was a good one.
yeah,
Um,
it's still a fun one to play. They remastered it, so give it a go. Next, let's move on to instructional design. I know that takes up a big chunk of your day. So, what prompted you to transition into instructional design? Was it gradual or was it always something you thought you were going to do?
Kind of interesting question, and I made me think back to again my almost my childhood. Since then, I've had a knack or an interest in assembling materials and things in a very efficient way. So like you remember in high school, they probably had to do PowerPoint presentations and stuff, right? And even back then, I was building the kiosks.
Hmm.
If you guys have done those
Yeah.
kiosks, so without any instruction, teaching, or whatever, I was building these kiosks, and of course, that there's just like basically, I think I have a natural aspiration for it, and in combination with all the time I've spent learning it online, and working with computers and breaking systems apart and putting them back together, um, it just seemed natural that I end up there. And so I did my undergrad to be a social studies teacher
Mhm.
here and succeeded at that, and everything was great, but job opportunities were not great. And so I just kept going for education technology, and like I said, one thing just kind of led to the next, and then there was a kind of ID role here. Yeah, and here I was basically built for this and just fell into it. I didn't think it would be my thing in life, like at all. I did not think I'd be the online guy, out of college. I don't really know if I still want to be, but here I am. No, I enjoy it. There's a lot to enjoy about it, and yeah.
Awesome. Um, so, what do you think are some of the key skills and strategies you learned as a gamer that you can find transferable into your career as an instructional designer or just as a professional in general?
Yeah. So the biggest transferables. So teaching online is ultimately what I do, I guess. I build courses for people to use to teach online, which of course takes a lot of communication ability, obviously, but a kind of a certain type, and that's the digital voice or that digital presence. Is hard for some to achieve, and I think for me kind of came naturally in part because of my experience with video games. So I have a very confident digital self, I think, and I think other people pick up on that, and in turn they reciprocate. And I just think that's just good, I guess, in general. Um, yeah, and if I didn't answer that whole question, maybe you could repeat it, and I could
No, that was
elaborate.
perfect.
Or did I hit it? Okay, we're good. All
Yeah.
right, cool.
Um, as an instructional designer, what are some of the key principles or methodologies you follow when designing courses to ensure effective learning?
Oh, Well, we have a process. They call it the Open SUNY Course Quality Review. Um, it is a rubric. It is very detailed. It's basically a set of standards. And if you build the course site and can honestly say, yep, that thing's present, in every little checkbox, every criteria, then you can be pretty confident that the product will be accessible and people will be able to learn stuff from it. My personal kind of method is I build my reflections and assessments and methods for improvement into the design itself, where I try on purpose and I try to teach this to people and stuff to build in basically feedback cycles for yourself to be constantly getting information back from your users, clients, students, and then turning that right back around into the design of the product, like as I go. Very rapid, very heavy on the design thinking front. Lots of empathy is involved all around, and getting to know, if I'm building a course for someone else, getting to know who that person is, how they like to do their things, how they like to communicate, who their audience is, and all that. Yeah, and then the rapid prototype is how I like to work, but it doesn't always work that way in this current gig. I could go on forever about this sort of thing. So,
I guess that ties into a little bit our next question. What role do you believe technology plays in modern instructional design?
technology. Well, I could say it's like technology is a pencil and paper too. But yeah, so Excel sheets are the backbone of everything, right? So, technology is always going to be there, and pretty much whatever you do these days, I don't know. They're basically almost to the point where you can't have one without the other, kind of. Like, at least in my world, part of the pedagogy does involve using the technology and vice versa.
I
And it
guess to
kind of
be a
just
little,
needs to.
I guess to be a little more specific,
Mm.
uh, does AI play any role in in instructional design, or do you think it's going to have an impact, 1, 5, 10 years from now on
Yeah, oh
your
yeah.
profession?
Totally, it already is. Just like you're seeing in any other space, it's Wild West in a way. You go on Facebook and it's just like bots talking in circles to each other, and like I kind of worry that that's going to happen a little bit with pedagogy. It's just going to be a echo chamber of bots kind of regurgitating stuff that people aren't really reading carefully. So that's why I know people like me are always going to be needed to just make sure things make sense. But the AI is always going to be there. I've totally embraced it. I use it when I make sense too. And I've been seeing a lot of developments with like Articulate Storyline, a product we looked at over the winter. They're starting to use a lot of AI built features built into their tools, their e-authoring tools, that makes trainings and whatnot. So yeah, we're gonna be watching talking heads doing our compliance training as probably a generated AI person within, if we aren't already. Yeah. So.
Awesome. And then, are there any initiatives or projects that you are particularly proud of in your time as an instructional designer?
Oh, the digital literacy project with Tony and many other colleagues and peers you've maybe heard about. We've heard that many iterations of that thing. Thousands and thousands of people have probably gone through it, all over the world, and that's pretty cool. Uh, and maybe a few courses, handful of courses. I'm not really gonna name them all because I just can't. But there is that sense of, I don't know, pride, feeling rewarded, and especially when you hear from an instructor that their students loved the thing that you did. You know what I mean? Um, so there's a handful of those, and and I don't know, my courses really. I think they're pretty darn good. So yeah, I'm proud of those things.
Yeah. As a former student of yours, I could say it was great.
Awesome,
Um,
thank you.
so let's move into online learning now. I know that also takes up a big chunk of your time. So uh,
Mm.
what inspired you to become an instructor?
Oh yeah, like I said, I felt like I was destined anyway to be some sort of teacher person doing my undergrad in social studies ed. That's what I thought I'd be. I thought I'd be the social studies teacher over at St. Lawrence Elementary or, some equivalent. Um, I also did a lot of coaching and things in my younger days, sports, soccer, baseball. Um, yeah, so I kind of naturally fell into the teaching role, and then one thing led to the next. Given my background, it just kind of made sense to take it to the next level. It's not necessarily taking it to the next level. ID work is very nichey, um, and I guess it's my niche in this ecosystem that I've kind of carved out that I really enjoy.
Awesome. Uh, what challenges do you commonly encounter as an online instructor?
Hmm. Teaching online's tough. Like, you don't see your people, especially if you're asynchronous. And I try to keep to the rules the best I can and keep it asynchronous as much as I can. And um, not being able to see people and putting yourself out there and not really knowing how folks are going to be reacting or how hard they're rolling their eyes at you or, on any of those sort of things kind of lay in the back of your mind all the time. Um, a lot of computer sitting, but is what it is. It's definitely a challenge though. You gotta balance that out or else you kind of go a little crazy. You get sick, right? Almost. I've had back problems, you name it. Um, what other challenges? We're talking challenges with specifically teaching online or developing courses for online.
Both.
Yeah, both. Because the development part, working with other people, is a whole other ballgame when you're essentially trying to build a product with another person who doesn't see eye to eye with you most of the time, um, doesn't want to, and sometimes. So if you get the gist, that can be one of the challenges is working with a subject matter expert who's not nice to work with, so to speak. Weirdly enough, I even like those challenges too, because like I see it as a personal challenge. Like I'm gonna win this person over, and they're gonna see what I see eventually, and that's definitely rewarding when it happens. Doesn't always, but that's okay. Um, yeah, and then we got to deal with a very fast moving, fluid, whatever environment. The online learning thing is very competitive, and got to keep my skills up, got to keep moving, got to keep making stuff, got to keep learning stuff. Never really stops. Even when I go home, it's kind of always in the back of my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, so you said that asynchronous teaching can be difficult. Is there anything you
Mhm.
do to create a positive learning experience for students the best that you can?
Like I mentioned, a lot of opportunity for engagement and feedback with each other. Students talking to each other about stuff, and then just giving myself planned opportunities to interact with people. So basically, not waiting forever, right, and not creating that positive environment by simply talking to people and saying, what I'm seeing. And a lot of the time, that's all you got to do. It's uh, those who are quiet on that front and don't build in those feedback cycles definitely have that problem of an environment being stale, kind of negative, kind of people aren't as motivated to do stuff. Um, so yeah, it's all about the interaction and it's all about planning that interaction, which is a big difference from kind of traditional, not huge difference, but like a face-to-face setting kind of stuff happens naturally, right? Because you're like, well, it's 5:30, time to go to my 6 o'clock class and interact with people. It's not like you're gonna say that, right? But um, when you're planning for an online course, you kind of have to, uh, which takes practice. And if done well, though, I think it creates a positive, happy, safe environment for people to want to experiment and learn and be vulnerable a little bit and ultimately grow.
Awesome. Next, going into multimedia a little bit. In what ways do you leverage multimedia and other resources to enhance learning in your online courses?
Yeah, I'm lucky. This isn't sort of easy one. Someone have a hard time, but like just the nature of my courses are project based. Excuse me. Like make stuff type things. So the multimedia creation bit's kind of inherent. Um, but yeah, like most people, or well, not all of them, but I try to get people doing that I work with that I teach online is give options for students to create videos or infographics, or those are kind of the classic ways to what does Karen like to call it? Convergent, kind of go out of the forum or interactive activity thing in the LMS and find things, make stuff, and then bring it back in for discussion is how I like to use media.
Awesome. Are there any projects that you have created created for students to create that you like to put into all of your classes?
Oh, I used to be pretty diligent about that, especially like my web design course. I would make websites to show as examples or whatever. I don't do that as much now. Like I kind of make them on the fly depending on what's happening. Um, a lot of my videos that I make are, what's the word, ephemeral. I have to redo them each time because I heavily customize them. I don't know, whatever, for that audience, and the audience is always a little bit different every time, which is kind of probably insane, and it takes a lot of time, but I think there's a lot of value there, and yeah, I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah. Are there any projects that you like to assign in all of your classes?
Um, Projects I like to assign. Lots of reflection in general. That's kind of a theme that goes throughout the whole thing always. I always like the kiosk projects in 614 where we do those. Um, I don't know. I don't think I have a particular favorite assignment type thing. Kind of like them all, I guess. There might be one or two that I don't like at all. I can't really
Can
even
you
think of
talk
it
a
at this
little,
moment, but
one or two that you don't like?
I don't teach those classes anymore, and I'm trying to remember which one it was. There was this horrible document we had to assemble at the end. That one drove me bonkers. Uh, I think that was the instructional design course the first time around, and then the second time around, I changed how that one worked. But basically, I modeled that course off of how it used to be taught, and I just didn't like it. Yeah, I changed it. um, Got through it, struggled through it. But when you feel like even on the instructor side, you're slogging, you're struggling hard, then it's time to make some changes, and that was one of those.
I guess that leads directly to my next question. How do you assess the effectiveness of your online courses? And what measures do you take to continually improve and update them?
So yeah, it's a constant thing. Every assignment or activity, I try to work something in so it's giving me the opportunity to get feedback and in turn give feedback. So that constant feedback is coming in, and I'm constantly making changes pretty much on the fly, which probably shouldn't do. I don't think many people can do well. Get to toot my own horn a little bit. I'm in these LMS things all day, so I can very quickly make changes like that. And then, of course, we do a lot of reflection. There's this student surveys at the end. Just a lot of talking people and asking questions, getting feedback back in from my colleagues who are teaching other courses, and they're like, yeah, Steve, we saw your people did this thing well, or this thing wasn't that great. That happens a few times. And um that department, the ed tech crew, did a really nice job of mapping our desired dispositions to the course outcomes, like individually. So basically each of our courses intentionally are we're aware of which course is hitting on which disposition and which project, and that can be mapped all the way from top to the bottom. And so we see in the end results, did Tyler or whoever meet all these dispositions, and if not, we can tell which course needs to be tweaked a little bit to make sure we get that back up there. So I guess it's a mixture of individual assessment, of course, and then department-wide assessment. And then again, I'm lucky to be an admin in the LMS, and I can kind of do things like create a separate course shell and dump my course site into that, like at any time that I want. I don't have to ask anyone to do it. And then, yeah, so basically I finished that course with you guys this winter. I imported it into another shell. I sat there for like 3 hours and made all the changes based on all the feedback gathered from you guys and everything in that shell, saved it. It's in Brightspace, ready to go for the next time, with all those improvements, or hopefully improvements, already built into it. And thank you for that. You guys, you gave me some good feedback. A bunch of you did. So that's all of my courses. They take on their own, almost a life of their own as time goes on. As my students teach me things, I add that to the course to in turn teach to the next group, and it's just like this cycle that just keeps going and going and going for 10 years now with some of these, especially that web design course I think I'm doing this summer. I'm not sure, but that one's been really fun to watch evolve over the years.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope you're excited to hopefully one day teach another 5-week condensed course.
Oh man, the admins are scaring me, man. They're talking about doing that again, so we'll see. That's rough. I can't recommend it, but now that I have the site in place and I kind of know how it's going to flow, and you guys didn't laugh in my face when you looked at it, I have a little bit more confidence this time around to be able to handle it. So if I had to do it, I think I could do it. But yeah.
If you had to give advice to anyone who wanted to be an adjunct instructor for online learning, I mean, how could they dip their toe in the water or get started?
So most institutions will have their formal training requirements. Take those seriously and do it. I can't tell you how many faculty I know we have around here that just refuse to do that sort of thing for some reason. These training packages they're well done, especially the stuff from SUNY online. They know what they're doing. So go through all that stuff and learn the technology, become very comfortable with it. Assuming you kind of already know your subject area. So there's that, and then there's becoming very comfortable with the modalities that you're working in. So if you're going to be working asynchronously and you know that going into it, kind of have to design differently. In the back, you can't rely on a synchronous meeting. So everything you're writing, everything you're doing, you have to step back and say, okay, if I just handed this to someone else, could they make sense of it and create a product and learn things from it, which is darn hard to do and definitely takes a lot of practice. But yeah, that's it then. Practice, right? It takes all. It's a collection of skills across all kinds of mediums that takes a lot of practice. But if you really want to do it, you got to do it. And if you are going to be teaching online as an adjunct and that institution has instructional designers, get to know them and learn from them and work with them, and they'll make your life easy.
Awesome. And then stemming off of that, what advice would you give to someone who's about to start teaching their first online course?
Yeah. What advice to a brand new? And so it's like you're brand new to it.
Mm-hmm.
Set yourself up for success by making sure you are in tune with the rhythms of the course and make time for yourself, probably each day, to log into that course site and do a few things. And then allot certain days to, like, okay, here's my big grading chunk of the day. And yeah, if you're teaching multiple sections and all that, like, it really does help to build yourself a schedule using Outlook or whatever you need to, just to make sure you're hitting on everything. And because there's a lot, there's a lot of words to read. So that would be another thing. Be comfortable with sitting and reading a lot. And to kind of go off in a little bit of a tangent is get if you're going to be teaching online a lot, build yourself a good little workstation. You know, you don't want the crappy little MacBook on the table that you have to lean over all day. Definitely want a dock with the monitors and the peripherals and a good webcam and that a fast computer. Like, people don't take that part of this too seriously, but like, if you are faster and a fast computer, good peripherals, you know, you double, triple how fast you can do things. So that, coupled with a healthy balance to life, and coupled with a sort of schedule to keep yourself on task, will set yourself up to at least engage and keep your students engaged, which in turn should make you feel all bubbly inside and want to keep doing it.
Awesome, thank you. And then I wanted to ask, looking ahead, what do you see as some future trends and developments in instructional design and online education? But we touched on AI a little bit.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely see some AI stuff. All the research shows it's not going anywhere. Online learning, it's becoming more and more popular, and the SUNY system is enjoying it immensely and pushing colleges and programs and stuff to go online, even though it's very competitive. So basically, it's not going anywhere. It's definitely increasing in demand. It's increasing so fast, I think, though, that like on the development side, it's always a little bit behind. Does that make sense? And maybe someday that's kind of the goal, is that those two streams kind of merge. What else is coming out of there? There's always like a lot of law stuff going on all the time. That's outside of my realm, but I hope that someday our administrators and politicians figure out a way to make mainline. That's not the right word, but just make it very easy for colleges to develop stuff for online and for people to get into those courses. And I think that's just going to take time. And I think that's really the main thing. And it sounds bad, but like, most institutions have people who've been teaching there for 20 or 30 years. They're kind of set in their ways and they're great at it, but now they're being pushed into these online environments. They don't really want to be, so they're not really that great at it. They're students coming through systems that kind of getting pushed into the online environments, and maybe they don't want to be. So basically, what I'm getting at, as time rolls on and all these kind of policies and things are formalized, people will have a better sense of where they want to be, what they want to do, if they want to go online or not, or, you know what I mean? Like, there's people who are in the online spaces that probably shouldn't be because they don't want to be, and then in turn that makes it bad, right? And they'll have bad opinions, they'll have a bad time, and it's like, bro, you just shouldn't be there in the first place. So I think we're going to see less and less in that as time rolls on, and in turn that'll create more positivity around the whole online learning thing, and in turn new methods, growth, technologies, you know, all of the above. LMS technologies are interesting. It's like they take a few steps forward, but then certain core mechanics that are crucial, like, kind of suck. Like Brightspace forums, like navigating those darn things for me, I think they're kind of crappy. Like, they could be better. And I don't know why it's so difficult when you look at like apps on phones that do chat room things better that some 12-year-old programmed. I don't know. So like, yeah, so then they focused on like all mobile first design, and it's really cool, and you can drag and drop stuff all around, but then like a basic feature like a forum is still like blah. So that would be a thing I would hope to see big improvements in, and I think there will be. But yeah, once we get like some sort of combination of like have you ever use Discord, like the, you know,
Yeah.
Teams, whatever, but Discord is what it is. Like something like that, that's in an LMS, that's that powerful. And I don't know how that would look or whatever, but that's what I hope to see eventually. And
Everyone would be having a Brightspace Nitro and
right, get your subscription. When they launched Brightspace with us here, they had ads all over it. I was one of the first to complain about it. I was like, wow, this is weird. Anyway, that was out of nowhere. But lot of other stuff going on behind the scenes too, just how enrollments work and how that's automated. And once all that stuff is sorted out, hopefully happens in my lifetime, it would be a dream to watch a nice, well-oiled system work.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. To end things on a uplifting and fun note, what video games are you playing right now, and what recommendations do you have for the audience?
Well, Tribes 3 is in playtest phase right now. It comes out early access next week, I think. And if you like kind of technical, what I like to call shooters, like you have to be pretty good with your hands and pretty coordinated, and it's a high skill ceiling game, but it's very satisfying. It's like I love it. I love how the sensation of skiing, they call it, in these digital environments is so fun. So maybe try that out if you're like shooters. I love Dwarf Fortress, like I mentioned. It's this very deep, complicated sandbox, like city management thing. So if you're into the city management stuff, that's a really fun one. I'm seeing a lot of Helldivers 2 is a big one. And I've been playing that one with a group, and it's definitely a lot of fun with a group. So I'd recommend probably not play that one solo if you have a few buddies. That's a really fun one right now.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. I
You,
would
you're playing that one?
Yeah, I would recommend Supermarket Simulator to everyone right now. It's
Okay.
It's a good one.
I saw that. I saw that came out.
Yeah, but I appreciate you doing this with me. Being on the first episode of Bearcast. Great name.
Awesome. You guys are doing really cool stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing the end products.